friends. Today's story is about Jesus' love. Remember, we just got finished with our Easter story about how Christ had risen from the dead. Well, now I'm going to tell you a story about how Jesus appears to his disciples. He appeared to them several times after he rose from the dead, and this is the story of one of the times. Peter said to some of the disciples, "I think I'm going to go fishing." And the disciples says, "Well, we're going to go too." It was getting dark outside, but the disciples thought they would catch more fish that time of day. They got into the boat and went into the water. They were out there for a long time. The time had passed and it was almost morning, but they still hadn't caught any fish. Jesus knew where his disciples were and went out to meet them. He was standing on the shore. The disciples didn't realize who he was. Jesus called to him, "Friends, have you caught any fish?" "No," they answered. So Jesus told them, "Throw your net on the other side of the boat and you'll catch some." What happened next was amazing. The disciples who had been fishing all night without catching anything threw the net on the other side, and within minutes they started catching fish. One of the disciples who had been talking to them said, "It's the Lord." As soon as Peter heard this, he jumped out of the boat and ran to Jesus. They weren't far from the shore. The other disciples stayed in the boat and worked to tow the boat all the way to the shore. When they met up with Jesus, there was a fire started with some bread laying close by. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have caught and we'll have breakfast together." Peter helped the rest of the disciples get the fish out of the boat. There were so many fish, they were all big and heavy, that they all needed to work together to get the fish out. Then they all sat together in front of the warm fire, and Jesus took the bread and the fish and gave it to them. This was the third time Jesus had met with the disciples since he rose from the dead. After breakfast, Jesus asked Peter an important question. He said, "Peter, do you love me more than your parents and all your friends?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know I love you." Jesus asked again, "Peter, do you truly love me no matter what?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" Peter's feelings were hurt because Jesus kept asking him, but he replied, "Lord, you know the answer. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Well, then follow me." We learned that Jesus died on the cross because he loves us so much, no matter what bad things we do. Now we need to love Jesus no matter what. Here are some questions to think about. Would you still love Jesus if your mom or dad got very sick? Or if you had no friends and you were sad? If you were blind or couldn't walk anymore? If everything was going wrong, and I put death of a family member, no friends? If you were crippled? If you were poor and never got any presents? Some kids like you have these problems and much worse, and they still love Jesus. We need to remember that no matter what, Jesus loves us and will never stop loving us. Sometimes things can happen that we don't understand, but Jesus knows everything and he will help us if we ask him to. In our story that we just heard, Peter was asked by God if he loved him, and Peter told Jesus that he loved him. And remember in our story we talked about, would we love Jesus if we were sad or sick or crippled or poor or blind, or we move away, or somebody in our family dies, or we have no friends? Remember that Jesus loves us no matter what happens. He loves us when we sin. He loves us when we're sad and when we're sick and poor and crippled. In fact, there's a verse in the Bible that says, it's John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son Jesus to die on the cross, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but live eternally." So remember when you're sad or sick or crippled or poor or blind, or you move away, or somebody in your family that you love dies, or you don't have any friends, that God loves you so much that he sent Jesus to die for us. And Peter has to remember that too. And when we're sad and lonely, we need to pray to God and say, "God, I'm lonely and I'm sad and I need you."